The whispers followed Jiang Rushu like a shroud. In the sun-drenched ballroom of the Heizerui estate, where crystal chandeliers refracted light into a million merciless diamonds, each hushed comment was a pinprick against her skin. Is that her? She's so plain. A country girl. They say her family sold her to pay off a debt. Look at the prince's face. He can't even stand to look at her. Prince Rui, the cold, powerful CEO known to the world as Heizerui, didn't bother to hide his disgust. His jaw was a blade of sculpted granite, his dark eyes fixed not on his bride, but on a vision of perfection standing amongst the guests. Lei Yao, beautiful, posed, and radiating the effortless grace of high society. She met his gaze with a look of tragic, shared understanding. It was a silent conversation that excluded Rushu entirely, rendering her an unwanted prop in her own wedding. Rushu's shoulders, already weighed down by a gown worth more than her family's home, slumped further. She felt the hundreds of eyes dissecting her simple makeup, her nervous hands, the way she didn't quite belong amidst the opulence. Disarranged marriage was a prison, and the ceremony was her public sentencing. The officiant's voice droned on, leading them to the ceremonial bow. A family elder presented them with the ancestral jade scepter, a lustrous green artifact meant to symbolize a harmonious and prosperous union. As instructed, she and Heizerui each placed a hand upon it, preparing to bow in unison. But as Rushu's trembling fingers made contact, her sickening crack echoed through the silent hall. The ancient jade, brittle with age or fate, splintered beneath her touch, its staves clattering onto the marble floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It was a terrible omen, a disaster. Before the pieces had even settled, Heizerui's hand clamped around her arm like a vice. He dragged her from the altar, away from the horrified stairs, and into a secluded antechamber. He shoved her against a cold, gilded wall, his face a mask of pure fury. "Are you satisfied?" he hissed, his voice low and venomous. "Was this your plan, to make me the laughingstock of the entire city on our wedding day?" "No," Rushu whispered, her voice catching in her throat. "It was an accident." "I didn't an accident," he laughed, a cruel, mirthless sound. "Someone like you is an accident waiting to happen. A clumsy oaf who doesn't belong here." His eyes, the same eyes she remembered looking up at her with such desperate gratitude, now bore into her with sheer contempt. "You will be my wife in name only. Stay out of my sight. Don't speak to me. Don't approach me. And if you dare cause another scandal like this in my world, I will make you regret the day you were born. Now, get out." His words shattered the last fragile sliver of hope she had clung to. The man she had saved, the man who had promised her everything, was gone. Her mind reeled back, away from the cold hostility of the present, to a dimly lit room that smelled of antiseptic herbs. It was just a few months ago. She had found him collapsed on a remote mountain trail, delirious with a fever that had stolen his sight. She hadn't known he was the formidable CEO Heizerui. He was just a man in need. For days, she had tended to him in secret, a face obscured by a simple cloth mask she wore while working with potent remedies. She cooled his brow, fed him broth, and applied poultices that slowly drew out the toxins blinding him. He had been so different then, vulnerable, gentle. His bandaged eyes couldn't see her plain features, but he felt her kindness. "I don't know who you are," he'd murmured one night, his hand finding hers in the dark. His touch was warm, sincere. "But you have the kindest hands in the world. You saved my life." Rushu had merely shushed him, urging him to rest. But he had persisted. "When my sight returns, I will find you," he vowed, his voice thick with emotion. "A debt of life must be repaid with a life. I will marry you. I swear it. I am not worthy of such a thing," she had replied softly, her heart aching with a truth he couldn't see. "I am just an ordinary woman. Kindness is never ordinary," he'd insisted. He pressed something cool and smooth into her palm. Take this. It's a family heirloom. It will be my promise. So I can find my savior. It was a jade pendant, exquisitely carved. A perfect match to the scepter that now lay in pieces. She had accepted it. A silent, profound connection passing between them in the shadows. That moment had been the seed of her hope. The reason she had numbly agreed when her family announced her arranged marriage to a man she was told was recovering from a mysterious illness. She thought it was fate. She thought he was fulfilling his promise. Now, yanked back to the cold reality of the antechamber, the memory was a fresh wound. He was healed. His sight was restored, but he was blind in a way that mattered more. He couldn't see her. She stumbled back into the ballroom, a ghost at her own wedding feast. Across the room, Azuri was already by Lei Yao's side. His expression had softened into one of tender concern. Lei Yao, her hand resting delicately on her slightly rounded abdomen, looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. The perfect portrait of a wronged lover. Rushu was close enough to hear his low, reassuring murmur, each word a final nail in her coffin. Don't cry, Yao. This marriage is a contract. Nothing more. It means nothing to me. Once the company is stabilized, I will end this sham and make you my rightful wife. I promise you, I will never let that woman hurt you or our child. Leia leaned against his chest, a faint, triumphant smile touching her lips for only a second before she buried her face in his suit. Rushu's hand flew to her own abdomen, where she secretly clutched the jade pendant hidden beneath the layers of silk. It felt not like a promise, but like a shard of ice against her skin. She was utterly, devastatingly alone. The deceptive tranquility of Jiang Rushu's private courtyard shattered first with a muffled crash, then with a man's frantic, raised voice from within her quarters. The sound was a hook, and it snagged every gossiping servant within earshot. It also caught the ear of Hazuri, who was walking the main corridor with Lei Yao clinging to his arm. Lei Yao's perfectly painted face crumpled into a mask of exquisite distress. I saw a man sneak in earlier. I tried to warn her, to tell her how it would look, but she wouldn't listen. She clutched his sleeve, her voice a desperate, venomous whisper. She said she was lonely, that you were cold. I never imagined she would be so reckless. Every word was a carefully aimed dart, finding its mark in Hazuri's pride. His features hardened into a thundercloud of fury. He strode past the whispering staff and burst into the courtyard, his presence sucking the air from the space. A disheveled man, clearly an actor paid for his role, scrambled out of Roshu's rooms, feigning panic as he fled. Hazuri's blazing eyes landed on Jiang Roshu, who stood frozen by her small stone table, a book fallen from her hands. You dare, he snarled, the words cracking like a whip. You dare bring a lover into my home, under my very nose. No? Roshu's voice was thin, brittle with disbelief and terror. Azuri, it's not what it looks like. I don't know who that was. She took a desperate step toward him, her hands outstretched. Please, you have to believe me, remember. I was the one who healed your fever when no one else could. I wouldn't betray you, he scoffed, a cruel, ugly sound. Healed me, you spout such desperate fantasies. I see now what you're a conniving, shameless woman. As if on cue, Lei Yao stumbled forward, a dramatic gasp escaping her lips. She clutched her stomach, her body swaying precariously. My baby, she whimpered, her eyes locking onto Roshu with theatrical accusation. She pushed me. When I tried to stop her, she pushed me. She tried to harm my unborn child. That was the final, devastating blow. A wave of pure, unadulterated rage whooshed over Hazuri. He looked at Jiang Roshu not with anger, but with the chilling, absolute disgust that severed the last thread of her hope. You are a stain on this family's name, he declared, his voice ringing with cold finality for all to hear. Unfaithful, violent, shameless, get out of my sight. You are banished from this mansion, and will be confined to the old woodsman's cabin until I decide your fate. I never want to see your face again. The weight of it all, the lies, the hatred, his brutal, public denouncement crashed down on her. The world went silent, the faces of the sneering servants blurring into a monstrous fresco of contempt, broken beyond repair. The original Zhang Roshu felt something inside her shatter. That night, in the desolate quiet of her confinement, she tied a silken sash to a ceiling beam, seeking to prove in death the innocence she was denied in life. The world faded to black. Then, a flicker, a sharp, searing pain shot through her skull. Consciousness returned not as a gentle dawn, but as a violent system reboot. The mind that awoke in Zhang Roshu's body was not her own. It was Dr. Aris Thorne, a brilliant, Nobel-nominated physicist from the 21st century, whose last memory was of a catastrophic lab explosion, cerebral hypoxia, quantum entanglement. The thoughts were clinical, analytical. The air smelled of damp wood and medicinal herbs, not ionized particles. Her hands felt soft and unfamiliar. She staggered to a tarnished bronze mirror and stared. The face looking back was puffy from crying, the body soft and ridiculed. But the eyes were suddenly sharp, intelligent, and blazing with cold fury. The door creaked open. It was Heizuri, his face a mask of irritation, followed by a triumphant Lei Yao. "Have you come to your senses?" He began, but the words died on his lips. The woman before him was different. She stood straight, her chin lifted. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by an unnerving, analytical calm. "Let me summarize," the new Zhang Roshu said, her voice steady and clear, devoid of its previous tremor. A staged affair. A conveniently hysterical rival claiming a phantom pregnancy, and a remarkably foolish prince too blinded by arrogance to see the pathetic theater playing out before him. An impressively executed, if cliché, character assassination. Lei Yao gasped. "How dare you?" Heizuri was stunned into silence. What did you say?" A few guards, drawn by the commotion, began to snicker. One of them muttered, "She's finally lost her mind." Roshu's eyes snapped to him. She calmly walked over to a small shelf holding a porcelain idol of a deity. With a deliberate, almost casual motion, she closed her hand around it. A sickening crunch echoed in the silent room as the ceramic figure crumbled into dust and shards in her palm. The guards' laughter died instantly. They stared at her, then at the porcelain dust trickling from her fist, their faces pale with shock. They had mocked her for being weak and plumb. They never imagined such strength lay hidden. She turned back to Heizuri, dusting her hands. "I want a divorce," she stated, not as a request, but as a term of her surrender. "Grant it, and I will disappear quietly. Refuse, and I will personally dismantle Lei Yao's little fabrication piece by piece. In public, I will expose the plot, the paid actor, and the false pregnancy. Your family's pristine reputation will be dragged through the mud with your foolishness as the centerpiece." "Your choice?" Heizuri stared, utterly bewildered. This was not the sniveling, pathetic woman he had cast aside. This was someone else entirely, a predator looking at prey. The sheer force of her will was a physical blow, leaving him momentarily breathless. Pride and confusion warred on his face. He couldn't grant her demand. It would be an admission of his own failure. "You are delirious," he managed, his voice strained. "Your confinement stands. We will speak of this when you are sane." He turned and left, visibly shaken, pulling a stunned Lei Yao with him. Later, her loyal maid Kuei crept into the room, her eyes wide with fear. "Mistress, what have you done? You've made him furious." Zhang Roshu looked at the devoted, terrified girl. This was her only ally. The Zhang Roshu you knew is gone. Quay, she said softly, a voice losing its hard edge. My name is Aris. I'm a scientist from a future you cannot imagine, and I promise you, we are not going to be victims anymore. She pulled a charcoal stick from the hearth and began sketching on a piece of discarded parchment. Gears, levers, reflective panels, and complex diagrams took shape under her swift, certain hand. What is that, mistress? Quay whispered, peering at the strange drawings. It's our freedom, Rushu replied, a fierce, determined glint in her eyes. It's a machine that washes clothes on its own, powered by the sun. It's a life-saving tool that will make us rich. They think they've buried me out here in the woods. They have no idea they just gave me the peace and quiet I needed to start an industrial revolution. 2 months had passed since Jiang Rushu had been left for dead, and the woman who emerged from that crucible was not the one they remembered. In the heart of the capital's most bustling marketplace, she stood not as a rejected princess, but as a revolutionary entrepreneur. Beside her, a wide-eyed Queen nervously polished the strange, cylindrical metal contraption that drew a steady stream of curious onlookers. Their stall, clean and minimalist, was a stark contrast to the chaotic vibrancy of its neighbors. Tired of hands chapped raw from lye, weary of hours spent scrubbing over a washboard, Rushu's voice, clear and confident, cut through the market's din. She was no longer hiding behind her weight or her downcast eyes. She met every skeptical gaze head-on, a charismatic smile playing on her lips. What if I told you that for the price of a few new gowns, you could buy back hours of your life? Every single week, a woman in the crowd scoffed. And what is this sorcery, then? A goblin in a barrel that eats dirt? Rushu's smile widened. She held up a pristine white shirt, then deliberately poured a cup of dark wine down its front, earning a collective gasp from the crowd. She added a smear of mud for good measure. No goblins, just ingenuity. She tossed the ruined garment into the machine, added a scoop of her specially formulated soap powder, and began cranking a large handle on its side. The machine whirred and slashed, a peculiar and hypnotic sound. While this marvel does its work, allow me to introduce the Emancipator 1000, she announced, her flair for marketing a product of a life no one here could imagine. It liberates your hands. It frees your time. It is not just a machine. It is a treasure for every household. Mere moments later, she stopped cranking, drained the murky water, and pulled out the shirt. It was spotless, gleaming white and carrying the faint, fresh scent of lavender. A stunned silence fell over the crowd, broken by a disbelieving murmur that quickly swelled into a roar of excitement. How much? Someone shouted. 200 silver pieces, Rushu declared. The crowd's excitement immediately cooled, replaced by grumbles of protest. An investment, Rushu countered smoothly, that for the first 10 customers today, a special introductory price of 150, and will include a month's supply of our miracle soap powder. The dam of resistance broke. A frenzy erupted as merchants and wealthy homemakers shoved their way forward, waving money pouches. They sold out their entire stock in under an hour. Unseen in the throng, a plainly dressed man with the keen eyes of a ruler watched the entire spectacle. He didn't join the fray, but waited until the chaos subsided. Approaching Quay quietly, he purchased the last floor model for the full 200 silver, his gaze lingering on Jiang Rushu with an expression of profound impressment before he melted back into the crowd. The emperor had seen all he needed to see. The whispers about the rejected Princess Rui began to change. Fat and clumsy were replaced by clever and brilliant. Her public shame was slowly being overwritten by public admiration. Days later, Hazari stood stiffly in the emperor's private study, the scent of sandalwood heavy in the air. I hear your prince's consort has become the talk of the capital, the emperor said, not looking up from a scroll. An invention that washes clothes without manual labor. Quite remarkable. Hazari's jaw tightened. He had heard the rumors, dismissing them as peasant gossip. "It is a trifle, Your Majesty, a hobby to occupy her time." The emperor finally looked at him, his gaze sharp enough to strip away any pretense. "A trifle that has the potential to revolutionize domestic life? I think not. Her ingenuity brings honor to the royal family. The Empress's birthday banquet is in 2 weeks. I expect you to bring her. She will be honored publicly for her contribution." It was not a request, it was a command. Hazarui left the palace in a state of controlled fury, his world tilting on its axis. He was forced to confront the woman he had so thoroughly discarded. He found her not in her neglected rooms, but in the courtyard, where she moved with a newfound energy that was both jarring and captivating. Over the past 2 months, she had shed the weight that had been his primary source of disdain, her body sculpted by a rigorous regimen of strange, fluid exercises and a meticulously healthy diet. Kuei watched from the side, her expression one of permanent astonishment. When Roshu finally noticed him, she didn't scurry away. She walked toward him, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, her breathing even, her eyes clear and direct. "The emperor has commanded that you attend the empress's birthday banquet," he said, his tone clipped. "I see," she replied, her voice cool. "And what is it to you?" The sheer audacity of her question left him momentarily speechless. "You will do as you are commanded." "Oh, I will attend," she said, circling him slowly, like a predator assessing its prey. "But my attendance has a price. You and your family took my dignity. You publicly shamed me. If you want me to appear as your consort, to lend my honor to your name, it will cost you 1,000 gold pieces." Hazarui felt a surge of indignant rage. "You dare extort me? I am a businesswoman now, Prince Rui," she stated, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "This is my fee, for services rendered, for the humiliation I endured. Pay it, or explain to the emperor why your brilliant, inventive wife was indisposed to accept his personal commendation." He stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time. The timid, overweight girl was gone, replaced by a formidable woman with eyes of steel. Trapped by his father's decree and his own pride, he saw no way out. "Fine," he bit out, the word tasting like ash. "The gold will be delivered tomorrow." He turned and stalked away, his mind reeling. Who was this woman? Meanwhile, in her own lavish quarters, lay Yao preened before a mirror, admiring a bolt of silk embroidered with silver thread. "This will be made into the most magnificent gown the court has ever seen," she gloated to her maid. "MEI, when I dance for the empress, no one will even remember that fat waste of space exists. Princess Consort Roshu has been ordered to attend as well," MEI offered timidly. Lei Yao laughed, a sharp, unpleasant sound. "Let her. It will only serve to highlight my own beauty. Has Prince Rui even seen her these past 2 months? He wouldn't spare a glance for that cow. He has not visited her courtyard." "My lady," MEI confirmed. "Exactly," Lei Yao said, her confidence soaring. She had no idea that in that very courtyard, long after the moon had risen, Zhang Roshu was preparing for a performance of her own. She moved with a grace that defied her former self, her body flowing through the intricate steps of an ancient court dance. But woven into the traditional forms were subtle, sharp, modern twists, a flick of the wrist, a powerful turn, a gaze that held both sorrow and fire. She was not just practicing a dance, she was sharpening a blade, ready to carve out her own legend in the glittering, treacherous halls of the imperial palace. The grand hall of the imperial palace shimmered under the weight of 1,000 crystal chandeliers, each one a miniature sun reflecting off polished marble floors, and the jewels adorning the empire's most powerful figures. It was the empress's birthday, an event where influence was currency and status was the only language spoken. At the foot of the throne, Prince Haizari stood with Lei Yao, a vision in pale silk, her hand resting delicately on his arm. She was the picture of gentle concern, her voice a soft murmur meant only for the emperor and empress, yet loud enough for the nearest nobles to overhear. "I do worrying so for Consort Jiang." Lei Yao sighed, her brow furrowed with practiced empathy. "Prince Ri tells me her health has been fragile. It is a shame she cannot attend. Perhaps her ample figure makes such public appearances an ordeal for her." The empress's lips thinned, a flicker of distaste in her eyes. The emperor, a man who valued strength and presentation above all, let out a gruff sound of disapproval. The whispers began immediately, a venomous tide rippling through the assembled guests. "Hiding in shame, is she?" one lord muttered to another. "I heard her personal carriage required reinforcements." A lady tittered behind her fan. Perhaps it finally broke under the strain. Haizari's jaw tightened. He had banished Rashu from his sight 2 months ago, disgusted by her very presence. Lei Yao's words, while cruel, echoed his own private thoughts. He felt the familiar wave of irritation, of embarrassment that this woman was legally his wife. The consort's seat beside him was conspicuously empty, a void that spoke of his failure to secure a suitable match. Just as the ridicule reached its peak, the grand doors at the far end of the hall swung open. A hush fell, a wave of silence that rolled backward from the entrance until it reached the throne itself. Framed in the towering archway stood a woman. She was not announced. She did not need to be. She wore a gown of deep sapphire that shimmered like a twilight sky, its fabric clinging to curves that were elegant, not excessive. Her hair, once a simple, unkempt mess, was slept into an intricate knot, from which a single, diamond-encrusted pin caught the light. Her face, unveiled and luminous, was a masterpiece of classic beauty: high cheekbones, a delicate jawline, and eyes that held a calm, knowing intelligence. She moved with a dancer's grace, each step deliberate and posed as she advanced through the parted sea of nobles. The whispers died, replaced by stunned, open-mouthed silence. Haizari felt the air leave his lungs. His mind refused to connect the vision gliding toward him with the memory of the clumsy, overweight woman he had so cruelly despised. This was not Jiang Rushu. It couldn't be. A woman he remembered was a shadow, a source of shame. This woman was a flame, drawing the eye of every person in the room. He felt a disorienting lurch in his chest, a confusing cocktail of shock, disbelief, and a sharp, unwelcome pang of attraction. Lei Yao's perfectly manicured hand clenched on his arm, her nails digging into the fine fabric of his uniform. "Who is that?" she hissed, her voice tight with fury and disbelief. As Rashu drew nearer, a mask of righteous indignation fell over Lei Yao's face. She stepped forward, pointing an accusatory finger. "Imposter," she cried, her voice ringing with fabricated alarm. "Your Majesties, this woman is a fraud. She dares to impersonate the royal consort. This is high treason." The royal guards took a hesitant step forward, but Jiang Rushu simply stopped, offering a serene, flawless bow to the throne. "Your Majesties," she said, her voice clear and melodic, "devoid of any fear, I am no impostor. I'm Jiang Rushu, lawful wife of Prince Haizari." She turned her gaze, cool and direct, to Lei Yao. "I apologize for my 2-month absence. I took a retreat to regulate my health and discipline my body. A wife, after all, should strive to present her best self to her husband and the imperial family. Is that not so?" The emperor's stern gaze fell upon his son. "Haizari, is this woman your consort?" The question was a command. Every eye in the hall was on him. He felt trapped, his world tilting on its axis. The woman before him was a stranger, yet her eyes held the same flicker of defiance he had once found so infuriating. Now, it was mesmerizing. He swallowed, the truth a strange, foreign object on his tongue. "Yes," Imperial father, he managed, his voice strained. She is my wife. Zhang Rushu. A smile touched the Empress's lips. She leaned forward, her voice filled with newfound warmth. Consort Zhang, your determination is admirable. You have done the royal family proud. Please, come forward. Take your seat. The approval was a death knell for Lei Yao's attack. Defeated and seething, she was forced to retreat as Roshu ascended the dais and took her rightful place beside a still reeling Haizarui. Later, as the banquet's entertainment began, Lei Yao saw another chance to reclaim the spotlight. She announced she would perform a traditional zither piece for the Empress. Her performance was technically flawless, each note precise, but it was a cold, academic display that earned polite, but uninspired, applause when she finished. Roshu rose gracefully. Your Majesty, she said, addressing the Empress, if I may be so bold, I too would like to offer a performance to atone for my past mistakes and to celebrate your long life. Her lips curved into a mysterious smile. It is something a little more innovative, a dance to a peculiar melody that I hope will prove captivating. Intrigued, the Emperor nodded his assent. Roshu moved to the center of the performance stage. There was no music at first, only silence. Then, a strange, rhythmic beat began, a melody unlike anything the court had ever heard, played by a small ensemble she had evidently arranged. It was fluid, syncopated, full of unexpected rises and falls, and then she began to move. It was not a traditional dance of fluttering sleeves and delicate steps. Her movements were fluid, powerful, and expressive, a seamless blend of sharp angles and liquid grace. Her body told a story of struggle, of breaking free, of triumph and rebirth. It was mesmerizing, modern, and utterly enthralling. The entire court, from the lowest-ranking official to the Emperor himself, watched in spellbound silence. When she finished, holding a final, powerful pose, the hall erupted in thunderous, genuine applause. Incredible, the Emperor boomed, his face alight with delight. Such unique talent. You are an exceptional lady, Consort Zhang. You bring great joy to the palace. Roshu bowed, her smile radiant. You are too kind, Your Majesty. But my humble performance is not yet complete. For my finale, I would like to perform a small magic trick. Her eyes glinted as they found Lei Yao in the crowd. It is a trick of daring that requires a brave assistant. Lady Lei Yao, your grace under pressure is renowned. Would you do me the honor? Trapped by the public request, Lei Yao had no choice but to agree. She joined Roshu on the stage, her smile a brittle mask. The trick is called the Sword of Truth, Roshu announced as an attendant brought out a long, gleaming prop sword. It is said this blade cannot harm the pure of heart. She positioned Lei Yao in the center of the stage, her back to the audience. With a dramatic flourish, Roshu raised the sword high. The crowd gasped. Haizarui tensed. Half rising from his seat, Roshu lunged. Lei Yao let out a theatrical shriek of feigned terror. But instead of a blade, the tip of the sword housed a nozzle. With a faint hiss, a jet of yellow liquid shot out, drenching the back of Lei Yao's pristine silk gown. An unmistakable, pungent odor filled the air. Urine. A wave of shocked silence washed over the hall, followed by a sputtering of laughter that quickly grew into a roar. Lei Yao froze, her face a mask of horror as she realized what had happened. She whirled around, her act of the terrified victim instantly replaced by the raw, childish fury of a spoiled brat who had been utterly humiliated. You witch! She shrieked, her voice cracking. How dare you? Her panicked, undignified outburst only served to amuse the court further. The Empress hid a smile behind her hand, while the Emperor laughed outright. They saw Lei Yao not as a victim, but as a poor sport, her carefully crafted image of gentle elegance dissolving in a puddle of disgrace. Zhang Rushu simply held up the trick sword, a picture of calm amusement. It seems, she said, her voice carrying over the laughter, Her sword of truth reveals more than one kind of character. From his seat on the dais, Hazuri stared at his wife. He saw not the girl he had banished, nor the beauty who had stunned him, but a brilliant, cunning strategist who had, in a single evening, dismantled her rival, won the favor of the imperial family, and reclaimed her honor with breathtaking audacity. The disdain he had harbored for her for so long had vanished, replaced by a complex, thrilling emotion he couldn't yet name. It was awe. It was respect. And as he watched her stand victorious in the center of the grand hall, he knew, with startling certainty, that his life had just irrevocably and magnificently changed. The last of the emperor's birthday toasts had been offered, and a polite, expectant hush fell over the palace courtyard. Lanterns cast a warm, honeyed glow on the faces of the empire's most powerful figures. But all eyes were on one person, Zhang Rushu. She stood beside her seat, a picture of calm elegance in a gown the color of a twilight sky, a stark contrast to the trembling, overlooked girl she had once been. Hazuri watched her from across the manicured lawn, the crystal glass in his hand forgotten. The man who had once dismissed her with a single, contemptuous glance now found himself unable to look away. He had watched her build her company, watched her reclaim her name, and still, a part of him had clung to the memory of the plain, unremarkable woman forced upon him. That image was rapidly disintegrating. For his imperial majesty, Rushu began, her voice clear and steady, carrying across the silent courtyard. I offer a gift not of gold or silk, but of light and knowledge. She gave a subtle nod to an attendant. A moment later, a single, piercing whistle shot into the night. Every head tilted upward. A brilliant orb of magnesium white exploded against the canvas of the night sky, so bright it momentarily bleached the world of color. It was followed by a cascade of shimmering gold that seemed to weep, falling in slow, deliberate trails like willow branches. But this was no mere firework. The golden trails held their shape, forming the imperial crested dragon coiled around the mountain peak. A collective gasp rippled through the nobility. Before the crest could fade, another volley of projectiles launched, bursting into sapphire blues and emerald greens that painted the sky with constellations previously unknown to their astronomers. Peonies of crimson and silver bloomed and faded, followed by comets that spiraled in perfect, interlocking rings. It was not a display. It was a celestial ballet, a symphony of chemistry and physics conducted by an unseen maestro. Hazuri felt a knot tighten in his chest. This was beyond anything he had ever witnessed. It was beautiful, yes, but it was also precise, complex, and terrifyingly advanced. When the final firework, a shower of diamond dust glitter that lingered like captured stars, finally faded, a stunned silence held the courtyard captive. Rushu broke it. What you have seen is more than mere entertainment, she announced, her tone shifting from celebratory to academic. She addressed the emperor directly, but her gaze swept over the ministers of war and commerce. The colors are achieved by introducing metallic salt strontium for red, barium for green. The precision comes from calibrated ignition delays and aerodynamically stable casings. This is chemistry. This is physics. She took a step forward, her confidence an almost tangible force. Imagine this technology not for celebration, but for communication. Signal flares that can be seen for 100 miles, burning with a specific color to transmit a specific message and invasion. A request to aid. Imagine it for civil welfare-controlled blasts for mining, or clearing new roads through our most treacherous mountain passes, saving countless lives. And yes, she added, her voice dropping slightly, eyes finding the Minister of War. Imagine it for military application. Projectiles that can deliver payloads with an accuracy our enemies could never anticipate. The air crackled with the implications. She hadn't just given the Emperor a pretty light show. She had handed him a key to the future of his empire. She had demonstrated a genius that eclipsed every scholar in the Royal Academy. The emperor, his face illuminated by the lingering glow in the sky, rose slowly from his throne. His eyes, usually placid, were sharp with profound astonishment. "Extraordinary," he boomed, his voice resonating with authority. "Truly extraordinary. Lady Zhang Rashu, your gift has enlightened us all." He gestured with a regal hand. "You will attend me in my private study after the banquet. We have much to discuss." It was the highest honor, a command that cemented her status in a way no title or marriage ever could. A wave of murmurs washed over the court. Across the courtyard, Haizuri saw Lei Yao's face, pale and taut with disbelief, her carefully constructed world crumbling into dust. In that moment, Haizuri saw Zhang Rushu completely. The shame he'd felt for his past cruelty now burned with an intensity that was physically painful. He hadn't just misjudged her. He had been blind to a supernova, complaining that it was just another star. The woman he had scorned was a visionary, a force of nature cloaked in quiet dignity. The awe he felt was quickly followed by a deeper, more unsettling emotion, a profound and aching regret. He had been married to this woman, had shared a roof with her, and had treated her as less than nothing. His thoughts were shattered by a sudden commotion near the palace entrance. A royal guard, his face slick with sweat, burst into the courtyard and fell to his knees before the emperor. "Your Majesty, it is the princess. She has fallen. The royal physicians say the baby is coming now. Too soon, and the labor is obstructed." Panic erupted. The emperor's face went ashen, his earlier elation replaced with pure terror. His daughter, his only heir, was in peril. Guests rose to their feet, their whispers turning into a panic buzz. Within minutes, the head imperial physician, a venerable old man with a trembling beard, was summoned. "Your Majesty," he stammered, his voice frail with defeat. "The fall it has caused the babe to turn. It is a transverse lie. We have no method. To save the princess, we may have to sacrifice the child, and even then, our life is in grave danger." A choked cry of despair escaped the empress. The emperor swayed, steadied by his guards. The joyous celebration had become a death watch. Then, a clear voice cut through the chaos. "I can save them both." Every head turned. Zhang Rushu had moved to the center of the courtyard, her expression one of utter seriousness. The head physician scoffed. "You, my lady, what does a firework maker know of childbirth?" "I know of a technique called the external cephalic version," Rushu stated, her voice unwavering, projecting an absolute certainty that defied disbelief. "It is a way to manually reposition the infant from outside the womb. It is delicate, requires precise knowledge of anatomy, but it can be done. I can guide the child into the correct position for birth." The physician paled. "Witchcraft. To interfere so directly is forbidden. Is it more forbidden than letting your princess and her child die?" Rushu retorted, her eyes flashing. She turned her gaze back to the emperor, her expression softening with empathy. "Your Majesty, I understand your hesitation. I have no official medical standing, but I swear on my name and my life, I have the knowledge to do this. You have seen what my mind is capable of tonight. Please, you must trust me." Haizuri's heart hammered against his ribs. He watched her stand against the full weight of imperial tradition and medical dogma, a lone pillar of impossible knowledge. He didn't know how she knew these things, but he believed her. He believed her with a certainty that shook him to his core. The emperor stared at Rushu, his face a mask of conflict, fear, desperation, and a glimmer of hope. He looked at the helpless physician, and back at the woman who had just painted the sky with genius. He made his choice. "Do it," the emperor commanded, his voice raspy with emotion. "Take her to my daughter. Give her whatever she requires. If you succeed, there is nothing in this empire I will deny you. A team of attendants immediately flanked Roshu, ready to lead her into the palace's private wing. She turned to go, her face set with focus. As she passed Hazari, their eyes met for a fleeting second. In her gaze, there was no triumph, no "I told you so." There was only the quiet determination of a woman on a mission to save a life. He didn't hesitate. He fell into step behind her entourage, ignoring the questioning looks from the guards. He had to be there. He had to see this. He had to witness the final, irrefutable proof of the woman he had so terribly wronged. Hours later, Hazari stood in the antechamber, listening to the muffled sounds of distress from the princess's room. He had paced a trench in the priceless silk rug. Finally, after an eternity of silence, a new sound pierced the air, the thin, powerful wail of a newborn infant. The chamber doors opened. A drained but triumphant Zhang Rushu emerged, handing a swaddled bundle to a weeping, grateful empress. The head physician stared at her, his expression one of utter, world-altering shock. Rushu walked past them all, seeking the quiet solitude of a moonlit balcony. Hazari followed her out. She leaned against the marble balustrade, inhaling the cool night air, the tension finally leaving her shoulders. He stopped a few feet away, his voice barely a whisper. Rushu. She didn't turn. Prince Ri. The formal title felt like a blade twisting in his gut. How? He began, but the question was pointless. It didn't matter how. I was wrong, he said, the words tasting like ash. Everything I thought, everything I did to you, it was born of arrogance and ignorance. I saw you, but I refused to see you. There is no excuse for my cruelty. I'm sorry. She finally turned to look at him. Her face, bathed in moonlight, was serene. There was no anger there, only a profound weariness and a glimmer of something new. Your apology is accepted, Hazari, she said, using his name for the first time that night. He took a hesitant step closer. What you did tonight, what you've been doing, you are the most incredible person I have ever known. I was a fool, a blind fool. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking if there is a chance for us to begin again. Not as a contract, but as equals. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and gently took hers. Her skin was cool, but she didn't pull away. Zhang Roshu looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. She saw the regret, the awe, the nascent love in his eyes. She had fought for her own validation and won it spectacularly. She no longer needed his approval to feel whole. But perhaps, just perhaps, she could want it. A small, genuine smile touched her lips for the first time. The future, Prince Ri, she said softly, her fingers curling around his, is something we can invent together.